really quick introduction for Prubjot. We're so excited to have her joining us for our July clinical research lunch and learn session. And just a reminder for folks joining, this is a collaboration between the BC Children's Hospital Research Institute and the Women's Health Research Institute. So very excited that Prubjot is joining us. Prubjot is currently a health sciences librarian at UBC Woodward Library, where she supports students, staff, and faculty who work and study at BC Children's and Women's Hospitals and our associated research institutes, so WHRI and BCCHRI. And some of the services she provides includes instruction and one-on-one research consultations for students and faculty on expert searching and literature reviews. So very grateful to have her joining us today and sharing her expertise. So I'll turn it over to you, Prubjot.
Thanks so much, Shanley. I'm joining you all today from New Westminster, working from home today, which resides on the ancestral, unceded, and unsurrendered land of the Hunkaminam speaking peoples. So happy to be here. The title of today's session is Finding the Evidence, UBC Library Resources, and Literature Searching. So I know we have an amalgamation of different folks joining us. Some of you might be students, some of you might be researchers, maybe without UBC affiliation, but hopefully everyone will get something out of today's session. If you have any questions, you can put them into the Q&A, and I have some colleagues here who will be monitoring it, and I'll try to check up on it as frequently as I can. But yeah, let's get started. Okay, so these are just kind of just to anchor the session, we have these learning objectives here. So we're going to start by navigating just the UBC Library website very briefly, just to make sure everyone's acquainted with it, how to find some relevant research guides when you're getting started on research. Then we're going to move on to resources and support available on matters related to academic integrity, and especially with generative AI and how to kind of navigate that world as you conduct research. And then we're going to spend a lot of time exploring searching, expert searching, and how to develop a structured search on medical databases. And we're going to focus on Medline today. So that's kind of the plan. And again, these are the main topics that we're going to be talking about. And it's a lot of content in 1 hour. We might not get through everything, definitely not in great detail, but you'll know where to find help should you need it. And of course, you're welcome to contact me anytime if you ever need that kind of help. So I just wanted to start for the folks that maybe are not affiliated with UBC, or maybe they're working as a part of a UBC affiliated research team. So maybe your PI is UBC faculty. So you may or may not have access to UBC library resources, but you can always request access if you're working with a UBC faculty member or something like that. So this slide just has a link to this form where basically you get the UBC faculty member on whose team that you're on. They fill this out, and then you email it to this email address, and you will get access to UBC library resources. So this is just for the folks who don't have prior UBC affiliation. Obviously, if you're a UBC student or something like that already with your own CWL, you don't have to worry about this. But I just wanted to make sure that this is here for anyone who needs it. Okay, so let's start with the UBC library website. So just very quickly, summon catalog and research guides. So of course, this is the UBC library homepage. I just really want to draw your attention to certain key things here. One is, so here we have the general tab, and it says find articles, ebooks, theses, and more in Summon, UBC Summon. UBC Summon is UBC Library's kind of catch-all search engine. It searches everywhere within the UBC library ecosystem, and it pulls all the results it can based on your search query. So UBC Summon works a lot like Google, but within the context of UBC library. So it pulls everywhere and everything from UBC library. And so when you're getting started on research, this is a good place to kind of start. You can put in your topic, whatever the topic is, like climate change as an example, and it'll search all these databases and journals that UBC has access to at once, and then it'll pull some results, and you can filter and refine your search as needed based on the type of content you're looking at or anything like that. When you're searching UBC Summit, it's best practice to actually log in before you conduct a search, because if you're not logged in with your CWL or library account, UBC Summit actually hides some results from you, and that's based on like licensing agreements with certain publishers. So to ensure nothing's being hidden from the search results, make sure you're signed in to your library accounts, and then that way you can be sure that you're seeing everything. So that's kind of the first tip there. Now, if you're just looking for like a book or an ebook, it'll be more efficient. Rather than searching for it in Summon, you might want to search the library catalog. And so if you know the title of the book or ebook you're looking for, or you just want a book about a certain topic, you can search the catalog directly, and all the results are going to be books or ebooks with the location of where you can find it. You can also, if you work at, BC Children's, there's an interlibrary loan kind of program, and you can request books to be sent from UBC Library Campus to the BC Children's Study and Learning Commons, and vice versa. But if you're only looking for ebooks, you can actually filter the results to only show ebooks on the left-hand side here. If you go location online and you select location online, now you have all ebooks. So these obviously you can access anywhere, whether you're at BC Children's or UBC or at home. So that's the catalog. Indexes and databases, obviously, if you need to access any sort of database, like Medline, for example, you can access it through here. And then if you want to explore certain journals, you can search them through here. So for example, if I type in a journal title there, you see that UBC has access to issues 2018 to present, and you can access it through this link. That way, if you access it through here, you'll have automatic access to all the full text in that journal. So it's a good idea to access journals through here. Obviously, if UBC doesn't have a subscription to the journal you're looking for, or maybe it doesn't have the issue that you're looking for, you can always contact me and I can try to track it down, or we can always request an article from it through interlibrary loan or something like that. So yeah, that's in a nutshell UBC Library website. Two other things I quickly want to show you. If you go to Get Research Help, and then under Finding Resources, Research Guides, we have all the research guides for different subjects here. So for example, the pediatrics guide, there's my information. This is how you can contact me through email, or you can book a consult. But yeah, all the information, one-stop shop resources on getting research help, it's all here. So I just want to draw your attention on how to quickly find this guide. You can also just type in UBC Library Pediatrics or UBC Library Gynecology or something like that, and you'll be, one of the first links will be the research guide. Down here, we have workshops and events. So it's always a good idea to kind of see what workshops and events the library's putting on. A lot of research skills workshops, how to use different research software tools, different things like that. So always a good thing to explore if you are interested. All right, so just moving on here. So UBC Library obviously has a lot of resources. So we have point of care tools like Dynamed Clinical Key, these different kind of databases that have like synthesized or filtered information already. But we're going to focus on the databases today. UBC Library subscribes to many databases, including Medline, and that's the one that we're going to focus on today. A little bit more about Medline and PubMed a little bit later on. And of course, these are some other research guides that might be interesting to you depending on your topics. And so all the links are here. I've been told that the slides will be shared with you all with the recording, so you'll have access to all of this. Okay, so speeding right along here, I wanted to talk a little bit about academic integrity and scholarly integrity and kind of what differentiates both things. So academic integrity, that pertains to coursework. So it deals with academic integrity matters in an academic misconduct in the coursework that you do, for example, like cheating and what happens in those kinds of instances. So this academic integrity really pertains to the student coursework. If you're a graduate student, it could pertain to perhaps your graduate work or your thesis. And this concerns both students who are completing that coursework as well as instructors. So being aware of the resources available to instructors when you have a situation that an academic integrity situation, and just kind of where to go for help and to navigate that situation. So I wanted to just kind of share the UBC Academic Integrity Hub, and the link is here. The Academic Integrity Hub at UBC is a new office. It just opened in 2022. And so this is a brand new website, and basically it has all the information for students and instructors on academic integrity and kind of navigating this kind of topic. So for example, academic misconduct, it kind of goes through what does the process look like for students and what does the process look like for faculty, just so it's very transparent and everyone knows what to expect from that sort of thing. The other thing I really want to draw your attention on is the FAQ. We have ChatGPT and AI tools. So with the proliferation of generative AI, there's just kind of more uncertainty as to ChatGPT and the role it plays with in like course assignments and things like that, and how that might bring academic integrity into question, and can lead to these types of issues. So these are some frequently asked questions about ChatGPT and academic integrity. So might be worthwhile to kind of look through them, whether you're students or faculty. The academic integrity folks, as a new office, they also have this contact form here. So anything that you feel like you have questions that are not addressed on the website, feel free to contact those folks. Very nice people. I just met with them yesterday, and they're happy to receive your questions and refer you if needed. Scholarly integrity pertains to published work or work that's being produced with the goal of being published. So sometimes academic integrity and scholarly integrity is kind of used like kind of mixed up, or academic integrity is used when really it should be scholarly integrity. So scholarly integrity pertains to like maybe you're working on a literature review with the goal of it being published. That's more scholarly integrity, and that's anyone involved in research with the goal of publication. So basically responsible conduct of research, all those types of matters. Unlike the academic integrity hub at UBC, the scholarly integrity folks, they don't really have a dedicated office, but it is managed by the Office of the Vice President of Research and Innovation, and they do have a website. It's called the Responsible Conduct of Research website, and might be useful just kind of look through here and see what resources they have regarding scholarly integrity, how to make sure you're conducting research appropriately, responsibly, and ethically. So I just want to draw that to your attention as well. And there is an email here if you have any questions regarding your own work or anything like that. So these are some other links that I've kind of curated and put into one slide pertaining to academic integrity and generative AI. So there's that ChatGPT FAQ page that I already showed you all. There's this link, how to cite materials that are generated from ChatGPT or other generative AI materials. So citing AI materials according to what style you're using, there's some guidance here. Evaluating information, so information that's produced by ChatGPT or other like tools, how to kind of go through them and evaluate them and ensure that they're coming from authoritative sources and not hallucinating citations or anything else. And that really ties into academic integrity once again, so it's all connected. And of course, teaching and learning with generative AI, useful for instructors. The CTLT is a great resource on how to kind of incorporate generative AI and this type of technology in your own lessons, if you're interested in doing that as well. So lots of resources available to you all. And again, if you don't know where to go, you can always just email me and I can always refer you on if needed. All right, so some other resources here. I think in the interest of time, we'll keep going. Okay, so in a nutshell, that was just a brief overview of the UBC library ecosystem and some supports available on academic and scholarly integrity, depending on what you're working on, whether it's for coursework or for research. But I really wanted to get into the literature searching aspect since that will take up a lot of time, specifically how to kind of generate a structured search on a database such as Medline Ovid. So switching gears here, we're going to talk about searching. So when we think about searching, there's actually two types of searching that you might do. One is exploratory searching. This is referred to the initial searching you do when you're about to start a research project or an assignment. So you have, maybe you're going to do a systematic review with the hopes of it being published. You have a research question or a rough research question in mind. But you'll want to do some initial searching to see, is it feasible to do this review? Has anybody done this review before? Are there enough papers that exist on this topic to actually do a review? And so you might start on Google or Google Scholar or UBC Summon. And this is the initial exploratory searching you do when you're embarking on this type of project. You're really just determining what's currently out there on this topic, as well as identifying some maybe existing knowledge gaps so you can further refine your research question. And this is just very simple keyword searching that we do on search engines. You know, we do this type of searching every day, depending on what we're looking for. So this is exploratory searching and the purpose of it. Systematic searching, also called structured or comprehensive searching. This is the type of searching we do specifically when we're conducting literature reviews, including systematic reviews or scoping reviews. So when you're conducting a systematic or scoping review or a rapid review or most types of knowledge synthesis review types, you need to follow a certain protocol on how you conduct the search. And this is so that your search is following certain parameters so that you can be sure that you're retrieving all the available evidence on your topic, and that the search is reproducible by anybody, and as transparent as possible. Because, you know, if it's just a quick Google search, you can't really be sure that you're capturing everything on that topic. So that's why there are certain guidelines that to do a search for a systematic review, you need to search at least 3 databases. So maybe Medline, CINAHL, and Embase, and you need to conduct a very structured search on each database, so on and so forth. So this is systematic searching specifically for literature reviews. It follows the exploratory searching that you do when you're first starting the assignment. And this is really what we're going to focus on today, because everyone kind of knows how to do a Google search, but not everyone knows how to conduct a systematic search in a very streamlined way. So that's what we're going to focus on. So when you're first embarking on the process, so like I mentioned, you might have your research question, you've already done the exploratory searching, and you're ready to get started on developing that comprehensive structured search on your first database, which might be Medline. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that your research question is clarified and developed, and then basically prepare for your first database search by brainstorming some relevant search concepts. So what are the main search concepts that I need to incorporate in my search strategy so that I'm finding the articles that I need to find? And one way you can identify those search concepts is through clinical frameworks such as PICO, which you might have heard of before. So it's really just kind of dissecting your research question and thinking about who is my patient population? You know, what is the intervention I'm looking at, or the item of interest, or what's the exposure I'm looking at? Am I comparing the intervention to something, which would be the comparison? And what sort of outcomes am I looking at? What am I really trying to find? So this is one way you can identify these main search concepts that you can then develop your search strategy around. Not every question is going to fit into PICO format, especially if you're doing like scoping reviews where your question might be a little bit more broad. That's okay. There's other frameworks out there, or you can just keep it very simple and think, okay, what's main search concept number 1? What's main search concept number 2? So on and so forth. So for the purposes of this session, I just have an example research question here. So it's among pregnant people, does smoking lead to increased risk of preterm labor? So let's say I wanted to do kind of a literature review on this topic. I have my research question, so I want to identify my main search concepts, and I'm going to use Pico to do that. So this is how the Pico might look like for this research question. I'm focused on my patient population are going to be people who are pregnant. My intervention is not so much an intervention as it is an exposure, specifically smoking. I'm not really comparing it to anything. It's just really smoking versus not smoking. And then the outcome I'm looking at is how it affects preterm labor or premature birth. So these are my main 3 search concepts. My search strategy has to encompass all 3 things in order to ensure I'm capturing the specific types of paper that I'm interested in. So translating your Pico search concepts into a search in a visual way, this is kind of how it might look like. So pregnant or pregnancy or some keywords, you want to combine them with the Boolean operator or. So search for the word pregnant or pregnancy, and smoking, and preterm labor. So a paper has to include all 3 bubbles, all 3 concepts. And then if it includes all 3, then pull it in the search results. And I'll talk about a little bit about what these color codings mean in a second. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about keywords. So when you're constructing a comprehensive search, how do we do a keyword search and how do we incorporate subject headings, also known as mesh, into the search? So keywords, when I refer to keywords, I'm referring to what words do the authors use in the title and abstract. And so when you do a keyword search in a database, the database is going to look for that exact match in the article record. And the most important places in the article record for us are the title and abstract, because if it appears in the title or abstract of an article, it's probably important. We use keywords when we're doing exploratory searching. We all know what a keyword is. Subject headings, so medical subject headings, also referred to as mesh. These can also be referred to as subject terms or controlled vocabulary, thesaurus terms, but basically it's all referring to the same thing. Subject headings are specific to databases like Medline, like Embase. Google doesn't have subject headings. Only indexed bibliographic databases contain subject headings such as Medline. And basically when a paper is published and added into a database like the Medline database or PubMed or CINAHL or whichever, it's indexed under certain subject headings according to what the article is about. So in that way, subject headings, you can think of them as hashtags or tags. So article records are assigned to certain subject headings or hashtags according to what the article is about. So if there's an article that's about diabetes treatment, it's going to be indexed under a subject heading pertaining to diabetes, and maybe another subject heading pertaining to the treatment it's talking about, and maybe some others according to the contents of that article. And this organizes the papers within the database, kind of like a library. And so this makes papers really easy to find if you incorporate subject headings into your search strategy, and it makes sure that you're not missing anything. There's no holes in your search strategy. So when we're doing a comprehensive structured search for the purposes of a literature review, you need to construct your search strategy using both subject headings and keywords for each search concept. Why do we need both? If we only search using keywords, so we don't incorporate any subject headings, we don't look for them, we don't implement them in our search strategy, we are going to miss out on articles where maybe the authors use different terms from the keywords that we searched with. So maybe our search term our search strategy included infants or babies, but maybe some authors didn't use either of those keywords. They used newborns or neonates. So we might miss out on those articles because we didn't include the exact synonym or related term. If we only construct a search strategy using mesh, medical subject headings, we have to keep in mind that not every article is indexed with mesh, including very new articles. So articles that have recently been published have not been indexed in the database, that haven't been tagged with any subject headings. They're just kind of free floating in the database. Those articles are harder to retrieve. Articles can also be indexed incorrectly. So if we only rely on our subject headings, we miss out on new articles and articles that are not indexed appropriately. So there's a question in the chat, how do we know which mesh and keywords we need for our study? I will get to that very shortly, so stay tuned. But basically, we want to use both the correct subject heading and the keywords for each search concept. So this is kind of how it looks like. Again, we have each search concept. We have 3 in our example. And for each concept, we're going to have all the keywords for that. And we're going to have identify all the subject headings, and we're going to combine it with OR. So search for these keywords, or if the article is indexed under these subject headings, we do the same with concept 2, concept 3, and then we combine everything together with and. And again, I'm going to show you how to do that in the database very shortly. So we see here. Actually, let's just go right into the database right now, and then we can continue on the slide. So let's say you're going to go into UBC Medline for the first time. I'm going to access the database. We're accessing Medline through the Ovid platform. That's why it says Ovid in brackets there. That's just the platform the database is hosted on. You're going to sign in with your CWL. Okay, this is the homepage of Medline. You may or may not be familiar with it, but if this is your first time on Medline, you're going to want to click on My Account and sign into your Ovid account so that you're signed in. And that way you can save any searches that you do during your session. If you don't have an account, you can create one on that page. It's just a matter of choosing a username and a password. And then once you're signed in, you can save your searches, and that's really important. But let's kind of start. So if we go back to our original research question here, we're going to start with one concept at a time. Let's start with the P in our PICO, which is pregnant people, people who are pregnant or pregnancy. So I'm going to start by looking for the subject headings. So papers that are about pregnant people or pregnancy, what subject headings would those papers be indexed under? So to find a subject heading, I'm just going to type in pregnancy to start with. This is automatically checked, map term to subject heading. We want to keep it checked. And then when I press search, the database is going to see what I put in here. It's going to suggest what subject headings it thinks we should use. Okay, these are the suggestions. We see there's like many different types of like pregnancy here, and there's also just pregnancy by itself. So I'm going to go with the most kind of broad version. Here on the far right-hand side, we have the scope or the scope note. This will tell you exactly what this subject heading encompasses. So obviously pregnancy, the status during which female mammals carry their developing young. Even though we might know what the definition is, it's always good to look at the scope note because you can glean some additional information here. Anything that's in all capitals in the scope note are just other subject headings that exist. So here it's saying that these are some related subject headings you might be interested in. One of them is pregnant women, which is pertaining to our population. So that might be another subject heading we might want to check out later. And of course, the used for section. These are all the different terms that are encompassed under pregnancy. So if you're interested in gestation, this is the subject heading that you use. So I am going to include pregnancy as a subject heading in our search. So I clicked on it, and this takes you to the mesh tree or the mesh hierarchy is what we call it. And this is just another place where you can kind of see what are some other subject headings within the vicinity or within the same kind of tree structure that might also be interesting to us to include. So we see that pregnancy has all of these kind of more narrow subordinate subject headings. So you can get very specific as to what subject headings you want to include. We see we have pregnancy in adolescence, pregnancy outcome, all these different kind of things. In my case, I'm just going to, so I can be specific and select, okay, maybe pregnancy in adolescence, maybe pregnancy outcome, since I'm looking at outcomes of smoking on pregnancy. Up here, we have explode and focus. So what do those mean? So starting with explode, let's say I don't want to cherry pick different subject headings. I just want to include everything under this tree. Let's just include everything to start with. I can choose to explode in that case. So I'm exploding the pregnancy subject heading. That means I'm asking the database retrieve articles that are indexed under pregnancy, as well as articles indexed under any of its subordinate subject headings. So it's going to include all of these. This is the same thing as if I were to just go down the list and manually select every single one. It's the same thing. It's just a time-saving technique rather than going down and manually selecting everything. I could just explode. Now everything is going to be included. Next to it is focus. So when, let's say I want to focus the pregnancy subject heading, I'm saying only retrieve articles that have identified pregnancy as the major focus or the major concept of that article. I don't recommend doing this if you're doing like a systematic or scoping review or any type of literature review to start with, because it can cut down the results by quite a bit, sometimes up to 50 to 60%. And you're just going to increase your chances of missing out on relevant articles. So this is really good if you just need to find a quick couple of articles for something, but I wouldn't recommend doing that to start with when you don't even know what number of final articles you're dealing with. So if anything, I will explode the subject heading and I will press continue. Just ignore this page, you can just press continue again. EXP means we exploded, and the slash means that this is the subject heading. So we exploded the pregnancy subject heading, and now it's added into our search. I'm also going to include that pregnant woman one that I saw in that scope note. So always get in the habit of looking at the scope note just to see if there's any other information you can glean from there. Click on it. We see that pregnant woman is a subordinate subject heading underneath women. But we're mainly focused on pregnant women, right? So I'm just going to leave it at that. Continue. Okay, there. So if we were to kind of go back to this diagram here, for concept one, we identified our subject headings. So now I want to do my keywords for this concept. So the keywords are just going to be what we type into the database. So obviously it's going to be like pregnancy or pregnant. When you're typing out keywords or synonyms, you want to make sure you're typing out the Boolean operator or between each one. You can capitalize it if you want to. You don't have to for the database. But basically you have to add in the or, because if you don't and you just put it in one long string like this, the database is going to think this is one word when that's not the case. So you want to make sure you separate each one like that. There are some keyword techniques that you can use. So you can either type out exactly what the keyword is, pregnancy or pregnant, or you can put an asterisk at the end of a root word. So if I put an asterisk at the end of the N, the second N in pregnant, the database is going to find all the alternative endings. So if I just search this, it's going to search for pregnancy, pregnancies, pregnant, so on and so forth. And this kind of saves you time. You don't have to type out all the different variations of a word. You could just do the asterisk. So if I just leave it at that, I'm not looking for a subject heading anymore. So I'm going to uncheck this and then I'm going to press search. So there's a lot of text here. So let's kind of dissect what happened. The database, when you do a keyword search, it's going to put .mp at the end, and it's going to, this is basically just telling you what MP is. So MP is the keyword field. It's just telling you where the database intends to search for this keyword in the article record. Specifically, it's going to look for the keywords in the title, book title, abstract, subject headings, etc. So it's going to look for it in all of these different areas in the article record. So when you don't specify a keyword field, the database will do it for you, and MP is the default. It stands for multi-purpose or many places. I see the question in the chat, what's the difference between Medline and PubMed? I'll get to that very shortly as well. Thank you for the question. What I like to do is I don't like all of this extra text. So when I do a keyword search, I like to just, type in all my keywords. In this case, I just have the one there with the asterisk. I like to wrap it in brackets myself, and then I'll just type in .mp myself. And then that way you don't get all that extra text. It's just easier to read. Okay. So I have my subject headings and my keywords for the first PICO concept. Now I basically want to combine the two with this or here. So search for the keywords in the article record, or if it's indexed under the subject headings we identified. So to do that, you're going to select the mesh and the keywords for concept 1 combined with or. This is the culmination of concept 1. Now you do the same thing with the second concept, which was the I in PICO, or E in PICO in this case, exposure, and that's going to be smoking. So quickly we can do that. So again, I just typed in smoking. We can get specific as to what type of smoking we're interested in. I'm just going to keep it broad. I didn't really specify in my research question what type of smoking, or so I'm just going to keep it broad in that case. Scope note, it'll tell you some related subject headings here and all of that. Always make sure you check it. Click on it, see what the tree looks like. So we see that the subordinate headings are very specific types of smoking here. I'm just going to include everything. So I'm going to explode again. And then I'm going to press continue, continue. All right, there's my subject heading that I exploded for the second concept. Now I'm going to do my keyword search. So in this case, I can do smoke asterisk. That will find smoke, smoking, smoker, etc. Or you can just type it out. I'm also going to do a few keywords like tobacco, or maybe cigar. That will find cigar or cigarette, or cigarettes or cigars, plural. Yeah, let's just leave it at that actually. I'm going to wrap in brackets and type in .mp. So there's a question, is the parentheses mandatory? No. So if you can keep it very simple and just do this. But again, if you don't put parentheses and you don't specify the keyword field, the database will do it for you anyways, and then you're just going to get all this text. What you don't want to do is, if you are going to specify the keyword field, so you're going to type in .mp yourself, you need to put the parentheses, because if you don't, if you just type in .mp like this, it's only going to do it for the last keyword, cigar. So in order to specify like all of these keywords search within many places of the article record, you just want to gather them up in parentheses, just so it's very clear that this .mp pertains to all of the keywords here. So that's why I've been doing that. Okay. So subject headings, keywords for concept 2, select both, combine with or. This is culmination of concept 2. So we finished concept bubbles 1 and 2. Now we just have one more left. That's the outcome, the O and the PICO, which is preterm labor. So do you only do the .mp for when you use the asterisk? .mp only is the keyword field, right? So you only use it for keywords. And I only use the asterisk when I'm doing keyword searching. So yes, you don't put .mp at the end of like a subject heading. Once you select the subject heading, it's just added here with a slash at the end. You don't need to do anything else to it. So .mp is, whenever you see .mp in a search, that's a keyword. And whenever you see a slash in a Medline search, that's a subject heading. So I'm going to do preterm labor, find the subject heading for that. Okay, so it's suggesting I use obstetric labor premature. Scope note, make sure it is what you think it is. There's also premature birth, which I might be interested in as well. I'm selecting it. So we see that the subordinate subject heading underneath premature labor is premature birth. So I am going to select that one as well. You can also just explode premature labor and this will automatically be included. Or I can just, since it's just the one, I can just select it as well. And that's good. We'll go continue. Okay, here's our subject headings for concept bubble 3. Now I'll do the keyword search. So in this case, there's going to be a lot of keywords because there's different ways of saying preterm labor or premature birth. So if you were to type it out, it would look something like this. It would be preterm labor or preterm labor with a hyphen, because some people hyphenate preterm. So you want to make sure you include with and without the hyphen, because if you forget the hyphenated version, you might miss out on articles that have the hyphenated version. Remember, the database looks for the exact keyword match, so you have to make sure you include all variations. Same with alternative spelling. So labor can be spelled with a U, that's Canadian UK spelling. Make sure you include that. And again, with a hyphen. And then of course, premature birth. There's also premature labor with and without the U. So if you type out everything, it might take a while. So there's another strategy to kind of make this process easier, and it's called proximity searching or adjacency. And this is how you would do that. So adjacency is when you, or proximity searching is when you ask the database to search for certain keywords within close proximity of each other. So if this word is within a certain range of another word, then pull the article. So it's really good for phrases like preterm labor or premature birth or something like that, where it's not just one word that you're looking at. So in this case, I would structure it like this. So I would do preterm with the hyphen, preterm without the hyphen, and premature. And any other synonyms you can think of, like early labor, early birth, something like that. Okay, wrap those in brackets. Then I'm going to type in ADJ, stands for adjacent to or adjacency, within, let's say, 3 words of the words labor or labor with the U or birth, brackets. So I have, if the word's preterm, so if these words appear within 3 words of these words on the other side, then pull the article, and this saves us having to type out all the different combinations, if that makes sense. So if it's within 3 words of these words, then pull the article. You can keep it a little bit tighter, within 2 words, within 5 words, within 4 words, however many. Just make sure that you wrap the keywords in brackets on either side of the ADJ2, like so. Now you can just press search. But as I've been saying, I like to always wrap my entire keyword query in brackets and type in .mp just to keep it clean. So I'm just gonna do that. There it is. This is my keyword search for concept bubble 3 using proximity searching. So now I'm gonna combine the mesh for concept 3 and then the keywords for concept 3 combined with or. So there's a question what if you have more than 180 Js? You can do that, just make sure it's structured. Just make sure, so you're saying like, if this word appears within a certain number of words of another word, which appears within a certain number of words of another word, just make sure your brackets are where they need to be. I tend to stay away from doing more than 180J in one line because I get confused personally. So if you can try to just kind of break it up, that might be a little bit more ideal. All right, so this is the culmination of concept 3. All our concept bubbles are fleshed out. So now we want to glue them all together with the and Boolean operator. So combine concept 1 bubble and concept 2 and concept 3. So to do that, I'm going to select line 4, which was concept bubble 1. Line 7 was culmination of concept bubble 2. Then our last line was concept 3. 3 concepts, there should be 3 check marks. And now we're going to combine with and. We haven't used and up until this point. So up until this point, we've been using or. You use and at the very end. Okay, so my total results, this search retrieves 2,600 papers. And that's just like this is just a draft initial search. This is like the initial search number that you're starting with. From here, you can make changes and you can refine your search or you can broaden it. But basically, this is a fully structured search on a database. And this process of finding the subject headings, doing the keywords, combining with or, doing the same with concept 2, combining everything with and, this whole process that we did is transferable to other databases. It's the same process if you were to do the same thing on Embase, if you were to do the same thing on CINAHL, etc. So transferable skills there. And these other slides are just summarizing what I talked about during the demo. So just take into account plural form of words like pregnancy, pregnancies, taking into account hyphenated terms, taking into account alternative spellings, all of that good stuff. Adjacency operator, so I mentioned it's ADJ followed by number. This is for Ovid databases. For the EBSCO databases, that includes CINAHL and PsycInfo. It's capital N followed by a number. So that's just something to keep in mind. Asterisk you can use in any database. So this is the example I used in my example there. This again is just summarizing the entire process. I won't go over it, but it's there in case you forget. And this is kind of what the search looks like. So to review, we use PICO as a clinical framework to help us identify search concepts for our research question. We select our databases. Most databases that for health sciences systematic reviews is usually Medline, Embase, CINAHL, maybe a broad subject database like Web of Science or Scopus. And then if it's like mental health or psychology related, PsycInfo can also be tacked on there. So like if you're dealing with patient perspectives or if it has a mental health component, PsycInfo is another good one to add. Just remember you need to do at least 3 databases if you're doing a systematic or scoping review. But the ones I just mentioned are the most commonly seen ones. There's also the Cochrane databases like Central. That's also one. And UBC Library has access to all of these. But it's always good to have a discussion with your PI or your research team to make sure you're all on the same page as to what databases you want to search. So yeah, select the databases, search concepts one at a time. So do the subject headings for one concept, do the keywords, then move on to concept 2. Use truncation proximity operators appropriately and when needed, etc. So these are the elements of a good structured search for a literature review. I'm going to keep going. I've been trying to answer questions as I've been kind of going through the process. But again, if you have any questions following the session, feel free to email me. Okay, so I wanted to get to this because there was a question about Medline and PubMed and the difference between the two. So Medline versus PubMed for literature reviews. You don't need to search both for a literature review. Some people do, but really you only need to search one or the other. There's no need to search both because they're essentially the same database. They're both developed by the same entity. They're developed by the National Library of Medicine. And basically PubMed really is just public Medline because PubMed is the public facing version of Medline. Anybody can go to PubMed and search it. Like I can just type in pubmed.gov and I could just start, looking and developing a search from this interface. So yes, and then Medline is just a different interface. So you need a subscription to access Medline Ovid, and the UBC Library has a subscription. So since they're both developed by the National Library of Medicine, they use the same subject headings. They have the same journals indexed within each of them. So do they have the same articles? Theoretically, yes. So if that's why I'm saying they use the same subject headings, right? So if you do a search on Medline, there's no need to do that same search on PubMed because it's kind of redundant. You're going to be pulling basically the same articles. There might be some differences in numbers because PubMed has some additional resources like books and other things like that. But for journal articles, which is what we're really interested in when we're doing literature reviews, you're going to be pulling basically the same results if you do the same search on both. So yeah, I would recommend just choosing one or the other. Again, they use the same mesh database. They're both developed by the National Library of Medicine. PubMed is just the public-facing version. Anybody can search PubMed, but we have the choice whether we want to search Medline or PubMed because UBC has access to Medline. So when you're given the choice, which one do you use? Depends on what type of searching you're doing. If you're doing complex structured searching for a literature review where you need to search with subject headings, i.e. mesh and keywords, Medline is better than PubMed for this. It's just way more streamlined. It's way more structured. It's easier to develop a search on Medline versus doing that same thing on PubMed. You can try developing a search on PubMed. It's a different process. You'll find it a lot harder. But if you're just doing exploratory searching, like you're just trying to find out what articles exist on a topic, PubMed's very good for basic keyword searching. Same with Medline. PubMed and Medline are equally good options for that. Same with Google Scholar, Google, etc. So when given the choice, I recommend using Medline when you're doing literature reviews. And yeah, so Google Scholar, I'm not sure if you're asking about Google Scholar in the context of can we also include that as a database for when we're doing a literature review? And the answer is so Google Scholar does not count as one of the three or more databases you have to search for your systematic or scoping review, because Google Scholar is not considered a database. It's a search engine. So you can search Google Scholar to help find some additional, like if you found any articles on Google Scholar you want to include in the review, then just specify like, we're also including these articles. These were captured on our Google Scholar search using these keywords. So you just want to be very clear that these articles were identified using a Google Scholar search. These were the keywords that we use, but it doesn't count as one of the databases that you have to search. It's a search engine. And that's because Google Scholar is not reproducible. My Google Scholar results might look different from yours depending on the algorithm. So it's not reproducible. That's why it's not, and you can't conduct a structured search on Google Scholar either, right? So that's why. And you have to write that in the methods, yes. So I don't have time to get into kind of how to write the method section and like reporting guidelines. I will say that for that type of guidance, there's the Prisma guidelines, which you may or may not have heard of. So we have Prisma 2020, which is if you're doing a systematic review, these are the guidelines that you use. And basically the Prisma 2020 checklist, go to the PDF. This is everything that you need to include in your systematic review. So in the method section, it tells you clearly what you need to state when you're writing your method section. You'll see search strategy, present the full search strategies for all the databases search and websites. So that might be Google Scholar. So in terms of documentation, there's Prisma guidelines for that. If you're doing a scoping review, it's Prisma for scoping reviews. That's a separate guideline. For your protocol, there's a separate guideline, etc. So I do highly recommend for a more in-depth kind of deep dive into all these kind of like details on like developing a protocol and how to write the method section and screening and all these other components beyond just the searching component that we focused on today. There's this guide, the Knowledge Synthesis Research Guide. I think it was linked in my slides as well. Under workshop resources, I have the recordings here for the systematic and scoping review workshop series that the library puts on. So it happens about 3 times a year. The last iteration was in May. It wasn't recorded, but the November iteration last year was recorded. So the recordings for parts 1, 2, and 3 are posted here, and it goes through the entire process in more detail. So part 1 covers kind of like structure searching that we talked about today, but also goes into like the Prisma stuff and other kind of guidelines you need to use. Part 2 is translation, finding great literature. Part 3 is like COVID and screening, critical appraisal, that sort of thing. I won't get into PubMed, but basically just to reiterate, PubMed's very good. I recommend it for that initial exploratory keyword searching. And then when it comes to doing your structured search, I recommend Medline for that. But again, I have some links also. There's a Medline guided exercise. So I really recommend going through this Medline guided exercise before you go into the database. It's also a refresher. So you saw me do it, but also this is a refresher in case you forget anything on how to kind of navigate Medline. There's also another one for Signal as well and some video tutorials. But yeah, there's my email there, prubjot.gill@ubc.ca. A lot of content. I know we talked about a lot today, but I really just kind of want to make sure you saw me doing the search so you have a visual reference as you go forward. And yeah, thank you so much for all the questions in the chat. We have a little bit of time in case anyone else has any questions. So I'll pause here. Pause here for like a minute or two in case anyone has any questions. They want me to kind of explain something again. Awesome. Thank you, Anton. And I believe I answered Lori's question, the parentheses question, I think it was. I think I answered that during my demo, but let me know if you want me to just kind of go over it again. Somebody has their hand up. Okay, go ahead. You can unmute yourself. Or you can type your question in the chat.
I think we had to give Clarissa permission to talk, so I think we've given that now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. Clarissa, are you able to unmute yourself now?
I am, but I don't think
Oh.
I put anything in the chat.
Oh, okay. It just shows as your hand up, so maybe that was just a mistake.
So sorry. I was
No
probably looking
worries.
to see if there were Q&A. Sorry, everyone.
No
I just
Oh, no worries.
chat and I probably just misclicked. My bad.
No problem. Just wanted to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. All right. We have maybe another minute or so, and then I can let everyone go. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Prubjot, for this amazing overview. Please, everyone, reach out to Prubjot. She's an amazing resource to utilize at the Research Institute. And just a reminder that we'll have a lunch and learn in July as well. So please join us for that.
Yeah, so if you have any questions about your systematic literature review projects, anything library related, reach out to me. I also do one-on-one Zoom consults, and we can go through the same thing that we just did, but on a one-on-one basis, all of that good stuff. And of course, if I'm not the right person, I will refer you on to somebody who is to answer your question. But thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shanley and Ashley, and for inviting me, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.